Privacy advocates have been sounding the alarm on law enforcement surveillance for years now, and they hope to have an ally in Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani. But surveillance was absent from the mayor-elect's campaign platform, and his pick for police commissioner, Jessica Tisch, was a leading architect behind the NYPD surveillance technology. My next guest intends to hold the incoming mayor accountable for his promises to protect civil liberties. Michelle Dahl is the executive director of the nonprofit group Surveillance Technology Oversight Project, or STOP, and she joins me now to talk all about that and more. Welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So talk a little bit about this lawsuit that you guys have filed. You have filed a lot of lawsuits, but this pertains to DAS, the Domain Awareness System, which people may not know a lot about, but this is basically the network of surveillance cameras that blankets much of the city, right? Talk about the issues with the DAS.
Yeah, it's more than just cameras. It's tens of thousands of cameras, but also license plate readers, facial recognition technology, social media monitoring, and it amalgamates all of these data points into hundreds of thousands of data points on everyday New Yorkers. So we're challenging that based on the Fourth and First Amendments that it requires a warrant for this type of surveillance that really tracks everyday New Yorkers' every movement throughout the city, but also inhibits their First Amendment protected activity. People are afraid to go to protests if they know they're going to be spied on there. They're afraid to take part in religious activities that might associate them with certain people. So it's really an invasive technology, panopticon really, that's taking over the city that most people are unaware of just how far it reaches.
So of course, I think you would hear law enforcement counter that a lot of this is necessary for whether it's counterterrorism or in some cases solving crimes, right? Tracking down suspects in crimes, around the city. Is that something that you guys take issue with? I mean, it is clearly helpful in some crime solving, right?
Well, we've definitely seen it been used in certain circumstances, but the question isn't really surveillance or no surveillance. It's, do these systems actually make us safer without taking away our freedoms? And what we know is that these systems are really great at tracking folks on an everyday basis, but they're not great at preventing harm. What we do know is they introduce opportunities for error, for bias and discrimination, and for abuse, and at the cost of diverting resources away from things that create true public safety, like affordable housing, healthcare, jobs, and education.
So talk a little bit about Jessica Tisch, who we mentioned, the police commissioner who will be staying on the job under Mayor-elect Mamdani. I mean, she really was instrumental when she was previously at the NYPD. She was basically in charge of all of these high-tech policing tools, and now she's staying on as police commissioner. Obviously, she will have oversight and control over all of these systems. I mean, I guess first of all, do you guys feel like it was a mistake for Zohran Mamdani to keep her on as commissioner?
We're definitely concerned about her remaining on as commissioner, just given her role in expanding the massive surveillance state that New York is facing right now. But Mamdani has a chance to rein in this power and set himself apart from Mayor Adams and draw hard lines for the NYPD around their use of surveillance. He's got the opportunity to scale back the DAS system and all of the tracking that goes along with it, and invest those resources into more public safety, community holistic models that truly make people safer. So while we're concerned about what the commissioner's appointment means, we're anxious to see what Mamdani actually does to deliver on his promise to make New York a place for everybody.
So, I mean, talk about that because, as we mentioned, Mamdani, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, hasn't talked a lot about police surveillance. And it seems in his comments over the last few weeks that he is going to give Jessica Tisch, a lot of leeway in terms of her decision-making as police commissioner. I mean, Mamdani has talked about how he doesn't like to micromanage people. I mean, what would you like to see from Mamdani? What can you expect from him?
Yeah, well, he was a great ally, actually, for privacy advocates when he was a legislator. He worked on the Stop Fakes Act, which kept police officers from using fake social media profiles to spy on people. And while we're concerned about his commitment to anti-surveillance work now moving forward, we are anxious to see what he will do with Tisch in place. But organizations like STOP are ready to keep him accountable for transparency's sake, no matter what role he ends up taking with the commissioner with anti-surveillance work moving forward. What we'd like to see is a rollback of these surveillance tools, including the domain awareness system, a stop completely to all data sharing with ICE and federal agencies that target the very vulnerable communities in New York, and a reinvestment of resources into true public safety that's community focused.
And talk a little bit about some specific examples of times we've seen when maybe the surveillance technology has been misused or abused. I know there was a lawsuit by Stop and Amnesty International that resulted in a lot of documents being released that detailed, some instances of this. And also recently we heard about the NYPD collaborating with the FBI, basically surveilling people who had gone to immigration court and were court watchers there. So, where have we seen the NYPD crossing the line?
Well, there was a story today, actually, of an officer who was using the police's surveillance tools to track immigrants on behalf of ICE in violation of the sanctuary laws that we have in place. So we know as long as this data exists and these systems are in existence, there's the possibility that the data will be used to assist with deportations, for instance. There's also a huge risk of discrimination. We know that facial recognition technology, for instance, is very biased against people of color and can be used to misidentify folks. And we don't always hear about those stories because they often just end up in police stops rather than full arrests where no reports are created. But it definitely has a huge impact on communities that are being surveilled every day. And we have a lawsuit currently with the domain awareness system. There's a couple in Brooklyn who has a camera installed by the NYPD that points directly into their bedroom and living room. And so their every move is tracked even inside their home. And it's just emblematic of how much the surveillance state has really increased and crawled into our lives in very small and incremental ways.
Another element of the surveillance state are drones, and your group just put out a report recently on drone technology and how it has exploded. I think people may not realize this is no longer something that's used for search and rescue or trying to find swimmers who are out in the ocean. This is used on an everyday basis by the NYPD. Correct.
When you invest this much money into something, it's natural that they would want to get their money out of it. So it's being used in new and novel ways every day. We've heard reports that they're being encouraged to use drones just to track people, just to keep them busy, keep the drones busy when they're not in use for those things that they were originally designed for the important search and rescue things that they actually might have a specific use for. And instead are tracking people at protests, for instance, and creating risks because we don't know how safe drones are for actually flying overhead. The physical safety risk is there as well.
All right, well, we are out of time, so we're going to leave it there. Michelle Dahl, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.